Hey, did you know that there are people out there, young people, 24, 18, sometimes even younger, who are making millions of dollars, seven-figure businesses, and living an extravagant lifestyle? Why? In today's video, I want to discuss with you why, and also the shift that is happening in our society, our generation, and so many different things. And also how you can get on this new wave to find success in your life. All right, let's get into it. So firstly, we got here, times are changing. Okay, there's a new era beginning, right? I'm sure many of you have felt this. There is something happening in our collective consciousness, society, whatever you want to say, but something is shifting slowly, but it is shifting. And so this is sort of creating so much upheaval in all of us, collectively and individually. The biggest thing here is that AI, artificial intelligence, is exploding. And of course, will continue to change industries and humanity as a whole, okay? ChatGPT released around, I think, somewhere around 2023, somewhere around there. And so that's only been like 2 years, 2 years. And look at how much stuff we have. We have video generation, we have image generation, right? We have so many different things that can make reality almost questionable at this point. And it's only been 2 years, not to mention the dozens of job opportunities and the dozens of business opportunities that AI opens up windows for, right? So this is one of the things, is that AI is going to continue to change everything about our reality, and you can't fight that. And so one of the things is you have to really be able to like be open to that innovation and to where it's going to go, and be able to be flexible and adaptable to what the change brings. Then we also have the internet, which you're watching me on right now. YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Reddit, Google. The internet has become a titan, right? Since its inception in the 90s, right? It has connected us to such a vast level, and it's become so advanced that people can run seven-figure businesses completely online, digitally. Some faces YouTube channels are doing, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so this opens up so many different things because, the internet is creating this space where you can do so many different things that were not available prior to really the 2000s, right? So this is another element of why things are changing. The internet is giving us that space along with AI. And then we also have the collective shift. Okay, there's been a collective shift. You may have noticed this, you may not, of innovation and transformation being at the forefront of our minds and our trajectory. One of those is, of course, AI. That is one of the children of our innovation that's been continuing to grow. But there's been a nuggets of ever since COVID in particular, there's been nuggets of things changing in us collectively and individually. So you have to look at this in terms of like, there's a collective shift happening here. Things are changing, right? Some of them might be subtle, but things are changing. Old ways are cracking underneath the weight of a new world. And so we need to be able to understand that times are changing, a new era is beginning, and be open and adaptable to whatever that brings, And so that's number one, is that these people who are doing this, they're open to the times that are changing, and they're embracing these new waves. Major one of them is AI. So many young people in their early 20s starting AI businesses and making millions of dollars. Why? Because they're embracing the new wave. They're embracing something new, right? Again, 2 years since ChatGPT was released. 2 years. Can you imagine that? Just the amount of 2 years ago, none of this existed. That is the gold rush of our technological era at this time. And so that's big. But then next we also have here, people are waking up and evolving their narrative. Okay, this is so important. People are waking up to the realities of the systems we live in, the society we live in, the way life is going, the way people, to some degree in higher power, is treating people who are lower down. We have, in Western nations, the view of societal expectations are shifting. And in this, rebels are rising. This is why we're seeing so much new stuff. We're seeing influencers. We're seeing, people making, Bitcoins and stuff like that, and businesses propping up like AI businesses and so many different things. And this is one of the reasons why young people in particular are becoming, so rich and things like that, because they are taking advantage of these things and going against the grain. In this change of societal expectations, we see a lot of the rebels arise, which are, to some degree, entrepreneurs are the rebels because they do something unconventional. The majority, 90% of people don't do entrepreneurship because of, the stigma and the confusion and the uncertainty and all this kind of, stuff, but they're willing to be the rebel. And so one of the things of that is that the expectations of society are changing. And we as individuals are looking at society and seeing, maybe I don't want this. Maybe I don't want to go to a job for 40 to 50 years of my life just so I can be old as hell and not have very much savings and just try and live my life there, but waste the first great years of my life. People are waking up to that. They're also waking up to the idea that things are becoming more expensive, more difficult. Life is becoming more difficult. And so we're seeing a shift of this, people are waking up. They're realizing this old way, it ain't it, babe. We're not here for this anymore. So we need something new, okay? In particular, young people, Gen Z, Zoomers as they're called sometimes, and millennials, they are open to new possibilities instead of just falling in line. The old mentality for many centuries was just fall in line. Do what you're told. Follow society. This is what you're going to do, and you're going to do it. But a lot of the new generation is open to disrupting things. They're open to new possibilities. They're open to new mindsets and so many things. And people are going to have their arguments of, what's good and what's bad, or, all this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, you have to be able to embrace the new. And the younger generation is doing that. They're not following a line. So they are doing things like, if you're 18 or 20, starting an AI business instead of going to college, despite everybody telling you that's a terrible idea. Other people are doing things like becoming influencers. They're becoming Twitch streamers. They're playing video games, right? Unconventional stuff that didn't exist 20 plus years ago, but now they can do it. And they're following that. They're open to those possibilities. And so the younger people in the younger generations in particular are waking up to what is no longer feasible as societal expectations, and they're forming their own new narrative, their own societal expectations. They're going by their own compass, right? And so then we have the last point here, which is that people are realizing that the old way is not sustainable. So new narratives are considered. One of these is entrepreneurship. We don't learn about, I've talked about this before. We don't learn about entrepreneurship in school. Nobody knows what the hell that is. It's confusing. It's scary. So nobody pursues it. Some people don't even know they can pursue it. Right? You see so many entrepreneurs you can go study right now. They say they didn't even know that being a business owner was a thing. They didn't even know regular people could do that, right? They just thought that was for rich people in Hollywood, or people who were born into insane families with a whole bunch of wealth, right? But people just don't know. And so now that they know, they're like, oh, a normal person like me who grew up from a poor or even middle class family can become an entrepreneur and make millions of dollars, right? And so narratives are changing. People are understanding that the old way is unsustainable. There needs to be a new way to secure, safety, of wealth, security for myself, for my family, for my next generations. And so times and people are changing, and they're evolving their narrative. The old narrative is going and a new one is coming up. But again, that idea of I always come back to the idea, for me personally, whenever I struggle with something, of the butterfly analogy, which is, you're a caterpillar, little green bug, then you go into, the cocoon or the chrysalis or whatever, you become goop. The caterpillar literally breaks down to become goop, which then they transform into their new thing, which is a beautiful butterfly, okay? The problem is, you have your old life, the caterpillar, your new life, the butterfly, but that middle point where you're goop, it's tough because you don't know what's going on. It's confusing. It's there's turmoil. Stuff's crazy. And so whenever I'm in a difficult spot, whenever you're in a difficult spot, and whenever people realize they are in a difficult spot, an old narrative that doesn't work for them, they have to be open to entering that goop, right? Of being able to be in that weird place where your foundation's cracked. You're no longer the same thing you were before, but you're not yet the new thing. And so people are embracing that goop, you could say. And that breaking of the old way is what is becoming the new narrative. And that's where we're at right now. We're all collectively in the goop. Because the old is no longer feasible for all of us, but we haven't built the new yet. The new is currently being built. So we're in the goop. That's why everything feels confusing as hell. Okay? Then lastly here, we have why and how you can do it too. Okay? Very simple. Here's where you can start. You can start, first off, and I say this all the time, and people don't always listen to this, but it is the most important. You got to check your mindset. You got to check your mindset. Check your limiting beliefs, check your perceptions, check your schemas, check your mindset. Okay? If you don't believe that you deserve wealth, then you're not going to get it. If you don't believe that you can do something, then you can't. This is the fact. And one of the glaring things, I've studied hundreds of entrepreneurs, one of the glaring similarities, the thread that connects all of them is that their mindset, they know that they're going to do it. They go through a process where they have to remove the old mindset, the old limiting beliefs of, I can't do this. I'm not lucky enough for that. I'm not smart enough for that. I'm not capable enough for that. I don't do that kind of stuff. I'm not rich, right? I don't come from a rich family. All this kind of stuff, limiting beliefs. This is your mindset. Your mindset creates your reality. This is a fact. Your mindset creates your reality. There's elements of reality that push down on you, the universe, but at the end of the day, what the universe brings you is what you believe about yourself and continue to believe in. And so if you believe that you can't be rich, you're supposed to be normal or poor or whatever, how are you going to get out of that? Even the entrepreneurs who came from the poorest backgrounds still believed that they had that conviction in themselves. I'm going to do this. They didn't know how, but they did it. And they changed their mindset. And they said, I'm going to show up and I'm going to do this. So you got to check your mindset. Where are you holding yourself back? Where are you believing that you can't do something? Where are your limiting beliefs? Look at those limiting beliefs. Those are the biggest things. Okay? And begin working towards changing those. Because it's in your best interest to change your mindset. You control that fully. You don't have to go to someone to get permission to change your mindset. That's your mindset. And so start there. Change your mindset about money, about life, about yourself, everything. Look at that. Very important. Number 2, audit your life. Okay? Look at your life honestly. Honestly. Radical acceptance. What doesn't need to be there? And where are you holding yourself back? What is feeding off your energy in a negative way? What people are feeding off your energy in a negative way? Who are you hanging around? Are you hanging around people who don't want to do anything with their lives, that aren't looking for greater heights, that aren't looking to elevate themselves? Do you need those people in your life? That job, do you need it in your life? That soul-sucking job, right? Do you need all that? You got to look at that stuff because it's very important, because that's going to hold you back. See, if you want to be, it's one of the things I found and studied so much and experienced in my life so much, is that if you want to become that goop, back to the caterpillar analogy, butterfly analogy, if you want to become that goop, you have to release. What is the goop? It's the caterpillar breaking down into what it was into something transitory. The goop. If you want to become that goop to become the butterfly, you have to cut off the parts of yourself from your old life to make room for the new. Right? Addictions, people, situations, mindsets. You have to cut off the things that are holding you back, that are keeping you comfortable, that are keeping you stuck in a narrative of the old. Because as long as you're stuck in that, you're never going to be able to get to the new. And so audit your life. What is holding you back? Truly. You don't need to be mean to people. You don't need to make insane shifts, but just start looking at your life. What is holding you back? And also, how are you holding yourself back? Where are you not allowing yourself to take chances for your dreams? Because a lot of people are going to, I get a lot of stuff sometimes of people being like, oh, that's, all that dreaming stuff, that's for, you can't do that. It's like, we live in the real world, us people, and it's like, listen, babe, if you don't change your mindset, nothing's going to happen for you. It doesn't matter what excuse you give for any reason. If you don't have the mindset that you can do something, it doesn't matter. Because you've already lost before you even started. It doesn't matter if you can do it. It doesn't matter what things look like. It doesn't matter how hard it's going to be, what the universe is bringing you, what your life circumstances are. You have to be able to believe and not hold yourself back that you can do that thing. That's number 1. So dream big. And when things get tough and reality hits you, keep dreaming, because that is what will keep pushing you. And number 3, consider unconventional income sources. Now, I'm not here to push anybody into entrepreneurship. It's not for everybody. I'm not going to tell you, this is what you got to do. We all got to become entrepreneurs. That's up for you to decide. But I will say to consider unconventional sources. Passive income, businesses, even entrepreneurship, right? People who go into businesses and help businesses grow, right? Consider these, because this is part of the element, as we discussed, with the internet growing, YouTube growing, social media growing, AI growing. These things are becoming more possible than you think. I mean, it's insane how much I use so much AI on my back end of my businesses and on my content creation process that I've cut down the time that it takes me to do things by 50%. You can do so many great things leveraging AI now than you can even fathom, and it's only going to get better. So consider those unconventional income sources. Get on those bandwagons. Don't be afraid. Right? One of the things I see a lot about AI is pessimism, and a lot of those are not entirely unfounded, with things like stealing of art and different potential outcomes in the future. But at the end of the day, if you want to take advantage of the gold rush, you have to be willing to take advantage of new technological innovations. Anytime something new happens, people are always going to be like, no, that's stupid, or no, that's bad, or no, that's scary, I want to stay away from that. But it's the people who get in there when everybody else is saying no is the ones who succeed. Okay? So consider those unconventional income sources. Even if it's small, you don't have to leave your job and go try and start a business, because it does take time and change. But start small. Maybe you make a digital product. Maybe you're great at manifestation. Maybe you love astrology. Maybe you start giving astrology readings. Maybe you just create an astrology product. And this is very important. So consider starting unconventional income sources. Consider bridging the gap of where you are now to something new, something higher. And one last thing I'll leave you with is a little extra thing from my experimentation that I think is very important. If you decide to choose any of these paths or things to get into, know yourself. It's very important that you know yourself, because you're going to get a lot of stuff, and you'll see it all over the place. I'm not going to give you the same advice of like, you got to do this, you got to do it like that, you got to do it like this, because at the end of the day, everybody's different. You are different. Okay? There are so many different paths that you can take to success, and not all of them are going to be good for you. And by not knowing yourself, sometimes you get on the wrong paths. And that's the difficult part, because then you realize, I'm not good at this, I don't enjoy this. And then, you look at something, you're like, I can do this, it can make me a lot of money, but most people don't look long term. What is it going to look like 2 years from now? Are you really going to enjoy having a web development business where you work with clients if you don't even like web design or development, right? 2 to 3 years later, and you're still freelancing? It's like, you got to consider, what are you good at? What are you gifted at? Everybody has a gift. Don't say I'm not gifted, because you have one, you just don't see it yet. And that comes through experimentation. You got to explore that. So that's today's video on why people who are dumber than you and even younger than you are making 7 figures, making millions of dollars. They're millionaires, right? And this is why this is happening right now. And you can do it too. You can do it too. There's so many different people have achieved such great things from nothing. You can do it too, my friend. Do not sell yourself short. Do not give up. Dare to dream, right? Dare to be different. And in doing so, you will find your life, whatever that's meant to look like. But keep taking action, keep dreaming, and don't give up. Subscribe if you like this content. I'm always sharing motivational content, mindset content, stuff like that. Personal development, all that nice stuff, right? Like this video, I'd really appreciate it. It helps me grow. Leave a comment. It also helps me go. I'd love to hear your experiences with this, what you think about this, and have a nice day.